just so people know, I've known Brian for a number of years. It all started off about one prom photograph. And, you know, a couple of years ago, he said he was coming down from Scotland to our annual meetup, and he said he was going to bring a few friends down with him. And that's the first time I got to meet Kev. I think of Kev and I as having sort of shared backgrounds. The fact we've both been in the military, but obviously don't really know each other that well. But he drinks like a Scotsman and a piper.
What port?
He swears like a trooper, and that makes him cool.
Thank you.
I've been watching Kev's work. I friended him at that meeting, and I've seen his work come up. He's won a number of MPA awards, produced some lovely work done
I
with.
need to put my speakers on.
Lights. I know Brian's a bit of an expert with this as well, so I think this is all good stuff. I think we are. People don't realise how good photographers we've got amongst the event photography community. This is just another couple of examples of it. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to sit down and shut up, and then I'll field any chat questions that come up.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Mike, and thanks everybody for turning up and a willingness to listen. As you see, Kev and I are, we go to the same barber, but if you can't tell us apart, Kev's the shaved head guy with the beard and the Scottish accent. Okay, but just to do a quick introduction of myself, my name is Brian Muir. I've been full-time photographer for about 14, coming up 15 years now. Like most of you, doing events, but also doing things like weddings, portraits, a bit of fashion and beauty, that kind of thing. And what we're going to do tonight is we are both going to talk a little bit about how we use lighting, particularly on our location shoots. So non-studio shoots, some events type of work, but really not where we're going to be in a studio. Let me just get my share screen. All right, has that come up as a graphic? Yeah. Okay, that's all right. Okay, so the lighting on location and me teaching lighting on location kind of stemmed from about 2 or 3 years ago when Mike and I had been down in London at the SWPP convention. We've been doing that for a few years, normally working on the stand for Photomar, and we then started being asked to teach some master classes. Started doing that, and once the convention had finished a couple of years ago, I decided that I was going to go and do essentially what turned into another class called Studio in a Bag. Essentially, I wanted to take lighting and equipment that I could easily carry around either by walking, public transport, or whatever, and set up a location shoot with decent lighting to get some reasonable results. And so first thoughts were, I'll take a shot of what's in the bag, and hopefully, can you see the cursor moving around? Okay, and yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's my standard photography backpack. Inside, the lighting when I'm trying to be most mobile is based around two Pika 200s, or the Godox AD 200. My camera, my Nikon D5. You can see there's some MagMod equipment packed in there with some modifiers, some gels in there, and a couple of light stands strapped to the side of the backpack. Also carry, if I can, it's a rice bowl softbox. It's a softbox, but it's got a deflector inside, a bit like a beauty dish. And the majority of what Kev and I are going to talk about tonight is based on some very, very simple principles. It's almost a standard setup, but same ingredients, but it's how we mix it that makes the difference. The the basic one light setup. As you can see, the Pico 200s and the majority of what we're using these days are all battery powered rather than mains powered. The Pico 200s, if you've not seen them, are about the size of a speed light, a little bit heavier, but give approximately 3 times the power output of a standard speed light. But to give you an idea of the recipe for mixing the ingredients is this. You can see we've got our camera position, model in the center, and either to one side or the other, we will have our main key light. And the key light in this position, at this particular diagram, is the AD200 with a modifier, usually a light softener. There are a number of people who say, oh, these little white plastic domes, the Fongdong type things, or the Magsphere type, the Magboob type thing, are light softeners. They're not really. They're light diffusers more than anything else. Physics say that you can't get soft light with a small light source. So I try and take, for my key light, as large a light softener, light modifier as I can there. And that light will either be pointing, as you can see in this key light position 1, directly onto the model, or it will be feathered across the model. So we're getting a much softer light. So rather than, it's either direct or feathering across the model for a bit of a softer light. So that's ingredient number 1 within our recipe. And in many cases, that would be potentially all that you'd need. However, usually I would like to add in another ingredient. So what we do is, in addition to our key light at the front here facing, I will have a second light, and that will be somewhere normally behind the model. At position 1 here, it is almost opposite our key light. At position 2, it's directly behind the model from my position at the camera. And usually the model or the subject is blocking that light, but it will, as you'll see in a number of photographs, have a significant effect on the model and the environment. And position 3 could be at the same sides of complementing the key light. You can also see that, just for illustration purposes, I can use modifiers. In this case, it might be something like a grid attached to the light, or a gel of one or other colors. My main colors that I would normally use would be orange or blue. And again, we'll probably talk a little bit about how that works and why that works, or why I choose those colors. Kev will tell you that his ingredients and recipe are broadly similar to what I have, what I've outlined here, is a key light and a backlight. Okay. Now, Mike mentioned that one of the reasons that I was drawn into the dark world of the EPS was for a location shot that I did, and it was this one. Was shot on location. Number of times I've been asked, where did you get the background? Well, the answer is that the good Lord was good enough to send me it that evening. Real shot on location, not green screened, not fake backdrop, but one of the west of Scotland sunsets. And that was the particular shot that Mike, in the early days, kind of spotted and said, let's see if we can get this guy involved in, and I'll probably never forgive him for that. So that was shot on a prom on the bridge here, just near Burns Cottage. But one of the things is that is obviously lit. You can see that from the model's face, she's facing towards the key light. It's quite well lit. Yeah, I've had it critiqued, etc., by one or two people who said, "Oh, it's overexposed and it looks flashed and all the rest." Yes, it does. Absolutely no arguments from me there. But we've got the basis of this key light lighting the main side of the model or the main side of our subject, and we've got a secondary light. In this case, it is a strip box on a prom shoot. I can afford to take a little bit larger equipment, and I can, afford the time just to set something up before I get the melee of folk running through. And you can see that there's also, if you look down her arm that's furthest away from the camera, there's a little bit of edge lighting there. But one of the things is you need to get that key light correct. Okay. Backlight should just be a supplementary, okay? It plays a secondary role, rather than thinking, look at the great effect I'm going to get from the backlight. I have had somebody who tried to copy this particular style and who screwed it up. I can see you smiling, Mike, because you know who it is, who tried it, and they were so concerned about getting that backlight effect that their key light just looked awful. So, but one of the big things is, above all, learn to read and see the light. Look at where light and shadows are falling. If you don't need to add any light, then don't. This one particular shot is purely daylight. Okay. The bride, if I can add in, are we seeing a diagram as well there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, you may need to move the little thumbnails out of the way so you can see that. But that's essentially the bride standing on the steps, massive window at the top of the stairs, daylight coming through, and that's all it needed. We've got daylight, and we've got shadow where she's away from that. Learn to read the light. And if you can use the light to that advantage, then great. However, we're talking about on-location lighting at the moment. So let me just move on to our next shot. There's an awful lot of talk about when people are looking at buying flashes and light on-location lighting, is you hear this phrase over and over again, yeah, but will this overpower the sun? The chances are of a 200 watts speed light overpowering a nuclear star are fairly minimal. Okay. There are things that you can do to give you the almost the idea of overpowering the sun. But my first section that I'm going to talk about is really talking about, rather than overpowering the sun, working with the sun and balancing with the sun. Here is a shot taken on a prom. Now that is lit. That is flash lit. She is actually looking towards the flash, which is just out of shot to camera left there. The bit of lighting that you can see coming in on, as we are looking at it, on her right hand side is actually the sunlight. Okay, and my aim. I think some of my early prom shots, the majority of them looked as if they were flashed at. But in trying to refine that, I've tried to get more of a balance. So a fill, which is still creative rather than just being flat, but still creative. And on my proms, I do a lot of proms in this area. Here's some kind of behind the scenes shots of some of my prom work. You can see that I've got my key light and I've got a strip light at the back there. These are actually both running off of AD 600s. And I tend to only bring the 600s out on prom shoots these days when they happen, because I maybe need higher power or I need a fast recycle speed. I am photographing at roughly, creating a sellable portrait in roughly about 12 seconds for an hour. roughly around 300 to 350 portraits per hour. So setting the lights up, arranging a place where the kill zone, if you like, where my subject can stand, and stepping back, long lens, take the shot. So again, another behind the scenes shot, again showing where I'm standing. We've got our key light, turning the body towards that, and we've got a backlight, and there is the result from that particular one. Okay, again, very briefly, you can see I've got my key light. This girl actually, we would walk her forward more or less to kind of halfway between where I'm standing and she's standing. She's a little bit far from the light, so that we can get her close to that nice big softbox. And again, we've got that. There's our backlight. It's quite subtle, but still a bit of creative fill light. Rather than just being very flat lit, having the light and that directional light, changing the body position, changing the face position, gives us light and shadow and a little bit of form. So when you're on a shoot, like I say, if you don't need to add extra lighting, then don't do it. This particular shot was an engagement shot for my nephew, and it was taken on a beach in Scotland on the 4th of January a couple of years ago. Sun is getting very low, and it's just in behind this castle, this ruined castle here. But if you can see the effect that it's having on his shoulder and the back of his leg, etc., it's already, the natural light is giving me a nice rim light. So therefore, I'm only going to talk about a single light in this case, which was set up like that. Quite a small softbox in this particular one, but there's the result from there to there, a single light. Again, if you don't need to set up that, here's another one of my prom shots. You can see in their eyes here, I don't know whether I can zoom in here, you can see we've got a nice catch light, which is formed by my big sort of octabox, 120 centimeter octabox. But as you can see from this shot and a close-up shot there, it looks as if there's two lights, and the other light essentially is the sun. I'm shooting almost directly into the sun, which is quite overhead, and that's giving me a nice rim light round the hair of the subjects there. And so from that point of view, I don't need to be setting up a second light. First thing I do when I go into any location is assess the light that is already there. So there, can I use it? Do I need to fight it, or what? Again, going into another single light portraits is Amy here. The key light is actually the sun, and it was a very, very bright day. And the light that I had with me, there's no way it was going to really, really overpower the sun without too much light. So I used the sun as my key light. So she's looking towards the sun, and the rest of it is fill light, really, just to lift the shadows around her body so that the shadows and the contrast is not too deep. Last couple of images, or last image when I'm going to talk about single light is Kev and I often play this game called Where's the Shot? We'll be walking along down a grotty street, grotty alleyway, and he'll say, right, where's the shot? If you know what you're doing either with lighting, photography, and in this particular shot that's on the screen, things like depth of field, you should be able to get a reasonable shot almost anywhere. For example, I was doing a shoot with, it was like a seniors portrait session. Mike and I did one in London a few years ago, but this particular one, almost with a similar group, was up in Edinburgh, and it started to rain. And we found ourselves here in a grotty alleyway. We were actually hiding underneath a bridge at the Waverley Station in Edinburgh. And it started to rain, so everybody was sheltering. And I thought, right, I'll go and have a look and see what's around to see if there's any way we can use this. So I found this grotty alleyway. But knowing what I could do, and you can see behind this is my assistant Dawn, and behind Dawn, I've got somebody setting up. You can see it there with the light stand. It's a single speed light. I think it's a Godox V860 that's on there. But if you know what you're doing, and that can transform, switch the light on, and all of a sudden we get something like that. Okay, just with the addition of a single speed light. You can see it's giving a rim light around the edge of the model there, and the main thing that it's doing is lighting up the rain. It's giving me a bit of an effect. So did that test shot so that when my clients all came along and said, who wants to come out and play in the rain? You can go from something like this to there's the actual portrait. Client will buy that every day of the week. And it's something very, very unique. So that's a little bit about how you can use mainly a single light. And that, like I say, that's only a speed light. The exposure on her face was actually just the sky. It was very, very cloudy, very diffused, but quite a nice look there. If you were critiquing that, I know the hair's burned out and all the rest of it, but client bought it. So I'm going to hand you over to Kev now, who is I'll do a stop share. Who is going to take you through the next section and perhaps something else that you can try with on-location lighting. So Simon, would you spotlight Kev for me, please?
There we go. How's that? Is that better? I've got to say, first of all, I'm disappointed, Simon. If you promise you're going to do something, then you should deliver it. But I anticipated you would let us down. So I brought my own subtitles. For those who can't understand a word that I'm saying, just keep reading and you'll be fine.
Or just go to CFAX, page 888.
Yeah. Right, so as Brian has said, my kit bag is very, very similar to Brian's. A big revelation for me was probably about 3 years ago when I discovered the MagMod kit, which was detrimental to my bank balance and Brian's bank balance, because once he saw how easy it was to use MagMod kit on location and change what we do, Brian then spent money. And am I right? It just it's
absolutely
totally transforms what you're able to do in a relatively short space of time. My kit bag, very, very similar to Brian's, and the principles are exactly the same. If I don't need to light it, I won't light it. Hence, I'm starting with an image which was not lit. We were actually shooting at the edge of the woods with the young girl on her horse, and we were doing some off-camera flash stuff. I glanced to my right-hand side to see the sunset behind the Isle of Arran. We need to be at the top of the hill, let's go, so I didn't light it. But the problem is that doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes we need to create it. And as Brian has shown you how he will use the light to complement the available light, is anybody, this is not to say Brian can only do balancing light and I can only drop it. They're both techniques that we keep in our bags, and if we need it, we'll use them. So I'm going to show you how I build up probably one of my favourite shots that I've ever taken, first of all. So if I go to Lightroom, the best looking deer's arse in Scotland. Now, this is an image, not this particular one. The shot that's going to come up was one I had in my mind for about a year in planning. I'd wrecked the place. I'd found that, as you can see, carrots here worked really, really well. But these are wild deer. This is the Highlands of Scotland. They're wild. They will come, in this particular location, they will come quite close and allow you to feed them by hand at certain times of the year. So we're all the way up there. The bride had wanted to do a Rock the Frog shoot in her wedding dress. Knew exactly the shot I was going for. So the thing that you'll notice here is she's a good-looking girl, but her face is completely in shadow. Now, the image I wanted was a darker background with one stag and the bride showing off. Now, if I've got the dress looking okay and I've got the deer looking okay, but I've got shadows in her face, the shot fails. So as a reference, that's how it started. I then put her into a position where actually the groom was my Val. He's got an AD200 with a Magmod Magsphere. Just enough to throw some light onto her face and lift it up a wee bit. Also picks up the detail in the dress a wee bit more because it's coming in from the side. Now you can see up here how close we are to the road. You know, there's cars driving past as this is happening. So from here, same setup as Brian has shown earlier on, except that rather than a softbox, I'm using a Magsphere. But the idea is the same. It's going to it's not necessarily going to soften the light. I find the Magsphere just spreads it a tiny wee bit, just enough to lift up the face. So through that, building it down to that point where I've darkened the ambient light, then added light onto the model or the subject that I want it to be, gives me that. The principles of every shot I'm going to show you are exactly the same. Darken the image for me, somewhere between 1, sometimes 2 stops darker than the exposure that's going to be in the subject, and then throw the light onto my subject. So it's taking it that wee step further. Now, that was a year in planning. I cried when I got that shot, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, because I'd been up there during the summer. The deer wouldn't come near me. I'd been up twice during the winter, on my own to find out what would work best. Was it carrots? Was it apples? Was it turnips? Were they okay with flash going off? So much planning into getting that shot. So to me, I got a lot of shots that most people would be happy with, but that was what I saw in my head for a year, was that shot. Sometimes we need to compromise. Sometimes, as Brian was saying earlier on, you're never going to make a small light soft. It needs to be big. So sometimes we need to compromise. Like this shot of Gabby in Bulgaria. Now, at the time I was shooting with Fuji X Pro 1, which the flash system was shocking. There was no high-speed sync. There was no kind of good flash system that we have now. But I knew I had an epic sunset. I knew I could do something with it, but I needed to darken that sky down. So I used a wee X100T Fuji camera. It looks like a toy camera to anybody walking past. But it has a leaf shutter, which let me go into high-speed sync with any flash. And in this case, a 36-pound Young New Speedlight from Amazon, which is up here on the right-hand side, being held by my assistant. Now, again, as Brian's pointed out earlier on, sometimes shots aren't perfect. This hand looks horrible. Her eyes are dark. It's not perfect. There's a really harsh light on her. She squealed when she saw that photograph. She loved it. Mum and Dad stood. Mum's in tears. She look at the sunset. They look at the dress that they've spent a fortune on. And then Dad shakes my hand and tells me he loves it so much. He has 2 yachts, and any time I want to use them for photo shoots when I'm in Bulgaria, just use them. Job done. It's not a perfect shot, but it works. Same principle. Drop the ambient light. Added the light onto her. Got the expression. And moved on.
Kev, could you just clarify what you mean by dropping the ambient light?
Underexpose the ambient.
Right.
Which is what you'll see in all of these shots where the shots that Brian's taking, he's trying to balance the light that he's adding onto the subject with the ambient light. What I'm doing here is I'm underexposing the ambient light to make the subject the brightest part of the image and create quite a difference, at least a stop a difference between the background and my subject. Now, you'll hear photographers talking about using open shade. This is the same model, and I was doing a workshop tutorial again in Bulgaria, and it's the same model, Gabby. We found a large sort of, I think it used to be like a grain store or something, but you can see there's not a cloud in the sky. It's roasting hot. She was squinting. It wasn't particularly good light. But that threw a shadow onto her, which let me then throw whatever light onto her I wanted. So it meant that anything that was hitting her was what I needed, what I controlled.
Can I just say, Kev, you look different from the back in that shot.
I do. Mm-hmm. My legs are no hairy now. No, this is, as I say, I was doing a workshop, I was doing a tutorial. This is actually my eldest daughter, who some of you guys know is my second shooter. She shot her first wedding at the age of 9. Shoots everything in full manual. So she grabbed some shots as well.
Kev, she tells it the other way. She says you're her second shooter.
Is she here tonight? She's my second shooter. So up here we have an ED360 with the small, I think it's about 14 or 15 inch softbox in it. Again, not spectacularly soft, but it was soft enough. But it allowed us to get into a position where we control the light that's falling in the model, excuse me, reduce the ambient light a wee bit and give me that. In bright sunshine. Same detail here. The sun is actually across here on the left-hand side, coming through the building. Gives me a wee bit of lit, just a wee kiss of light onto her hair. Ambient light gets darker, and I then put a light onto Kate's face. Now, this is a shot which it's actually not that far away for you. You might recognise one of the faces you're about to see. This is obviously standing in the middle of the kind of rushes or reeds or whatever they are. Sun's quite low. She turns away from the sun, getting some shape to upper body and a nice short light onto her face. But anybody could take that because she was standing there. So what I did was I got her into a position, dropped the ambient exposure in the light, brought a softbox in, I then buried myself in the grass, looked up and got that. And I know when I say things like this, when I'm doing workshops, other photographers will say, and I know there's probably some of you guys there saying, yeah, it sounds like it's easy. It genuinely, it is easy. And the amount of times that I've practiced this shot, God, I wish I had £1 for every time I've done it. But repetition and practice is the key with it. We have a sunset. Nice. This was their 30th wedding anniversary. And again, it's a nice shot, but you want to see them. So when you've got a shot like this, and this couple spent a lot of money. So when it comes to assistance and people helping you out, you need the best in the business. So I found them. I found the best Val in the UK to help me. We bring in a 40-inch octabox, and it gives me that. One light. ED360 gives me that. This, by the way, the night this sunset was tremendous because it just kept getting better and better and better. So I was constantly changing my settings as the light adapted. Within, a minute, 2 minutes, I moved Brian to the other side, swapped the couple's position, got in closer and used the long end to get the long end of the zoom to get that. Oh, that. That is literally about, 90 seconds, 2 minutes apart, Brian?
Yep, absolutely. And one thing that I noticed when in swapping the light, the side of the light, you also swapped the side of the lady. And the reason for that being?
I always light for the lady.
Because
she spends the money. He supplies the money, but she spends it.
Yeah, he'll put his hand in his pocket, but she's the one that tells him to put his hand in his pocket.
Every time. Same detail here. This is, there's none of this is particularly complicated. Once you can drop that ambient light down about a stop or so below where your subject's going to be, bring the light into them, and you get that. Without flash, with flash. Bright sunshine. Now this was just, ignore the light that's on the right hand side. It was a one light setup. The car's actually placed in bright sunshine, so that's been lit by the sun. She turns her back away from it. I bring my light in to light her, and I get that. Same detail, we find an open shade area.
I do recognise it.
Yeah, find an open shade area and light it. Even the worst looking, Brian was talking about
Hey, wait a minute. Continue that sentence before you go, worst looking what?
You know, he actually said it, the worst looking Brian.
Worst looking alley that you can find. You know, as Brian said, the two of us will walk around. Where's the shot? Let's find the shot. It's an alleyway in Glasgow. You know, it's not particularly attractive. We've got one light. We ended up only used one light there. But that's that a lot of people would be happy with. Not particularly, because you've got bins and you've got signs and you've got cars and bags. But all it takes is a couple of steps to the side, move the light around a wee bit, crop in tighter. You've got a backdrop that Pixar Pro probably charge you 200 quid for. We have Prince Charles's Ayrshire residence, and that's how it looked until I reduced the ambient exposure, introduced the light onto the couple, and got that. Remove the light, sort the verticals, and they're happy as can be. And once you get used to doing this, it's amazing how fast this works. You get two brides right at the end of their day, you notice there's an epic sunset coming, you grab them, you run out onto the rocks at the beach, you put the light up, you say, girls, do you know something? It's the only time you've been together, just the two of you, for the whole bloody day. How much do you love each other? And you get that. And then, by the way, 4 days ago, 4 years down the line, their friends contact me from Dubai and say, we're getting married next year. We saw what you did on that day. We're booking you. It helps your business so much when you can produce this.
These are just taken down the beach from near where we live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same detail. This girl's a gymnast. She's quite, you know, she does the base for the gymnastic thing, so she's really powerful. So we needed to make her look feminine. Put shape into the body, bring the light onto her, drop the ambient light. And you can do it inside as well. You know, the principles work inside, just as Brian said earlier on, it's physics. This is exactly the same. This is literally 2 minutes before the wedding guests come in for the meal. I see the shot, the wedding coordinator says, you've got 2 minutes. There's no way you'll make a shot in 2 minutes.
Hold my beer.
So I take a shot. I get the ambient light the way I want it to be.
So how are you doing that, Kev? Are you using shutter speed? Are you using...
For that, I'm using the lowest ISO that I can, and I'm just going up the shutter speed until it gets to where I need it to be with the aperture that I want. Now, I notice at this point that this chandelier in the back, half of the bulbs are out. So I bring a light in here, which is going to go into the bride and groom. I put a light in the back, which is again, it's a CTO, so it's a warm gel, onto this chandelier at the back. You can see the staff are behind her. The piper standing waiting to pipe everyone in. I then dial in the exposure I want onto them. I then place my phone at the bottom of my lens to give me a kind of mirror. And I get that. From that. It works outside, inside. Principles are exactly the same. You can hide so much. I hid half a dozen staff there just by underexposing the ambient light and then throwing the light I wanted onto them. And it works at night. Yes, you might need to play with the ISO a wee bit more, the shutter speed a wee bit more, but this was in Coventry the night before Brian and I shot a wedding. One light, one of these kind of pop-up flash disc things.
Kev, don't tell Simon that we shot a wedding in Coventry.
Did we shoot a wedding in Coventry? Did I mention that? No.
Oh, no. I don't want Simon to find out.
We didn't shoot a wedding in Coventry.
Okay.
We shot a model in Coventry.
Yeah, there we go.
So that's it, guys. That's the principles for all of those shots are exactly the same. I reduce the ambient exposure to darken the background down, then put that one light either directly onto the subject or feathered it exactly as Brian was covering. And hopefully that was an interest to some of you guys. And if that was, just wait till you see what I've got in the second part. Thanks very much.
I'm just going to add in that Brian and I demonstrated something very similar at SWPP in London. And it's that way you put it, very, very simply. You know, you just set your ambient, bring in your lights, and you can add colour or whatever you want. But we had people going, I've never seen it done that easily. And Brian explained it to them all the same way as you did. And all I'm doing is running around with a box full of triggers and God knows what else, trying to sort people out. But it is amazing just how quickly you can do it if you know what you're doing.
Mm. Yeah.
It's practice. It's repetition. People think I'm joking when I say this. My dogs, in particular my youngest dog, who's 9 now, and Brian will vouch for this. If this dog sees me taking a camera out of a bag, the first thing he does is sit in his arse and look straight at me. Because I've tried so many different techniques, used my dogs, because when my girls can't be bothered to model for me, I don't have someone there, I'll get the dogs. So the dogs, I've got tens of thousands of photos of the dogs, practicing this stuff, trying different things.
Yeah. So we have, as I say, we've talked about the ingredients, and we've talked about a couple of recipes. One recipe number one being using flash to balance with the lights, with the existing light. Recipe number two is underexposing the ambient light and adding enough flash to illuminate your subject. We have got a couple of more pages from the recipe book that you can see variations on what we're doing. Just before I go into the next session, Mike, are there any questions that need to perhaps be answered?
One question that's come up, which is you can answer. How are you color balancing?
Color balancing for me, certainly with the balance flash, I'm either normally using a gray card, or I am using a color checker passport for my color balancing. That's when I am working with balancing the light. Kev, in fact, we'll probably talk a little bit more about it later, but Kev, I know, like me, carries color checker passport in his pocket. But there are also ways on color balancing, of how you can play with color balance. Mike did sort of allude to it a little bit with a couple of the techniques that I taught down in London. And I'm not going to step on Kev's toes because he's going to talk a little bit more about that. But generally, color balancing, I'm either using a Elastilite pop-up grey card, or on weddings, that kind of thing, where I need to be quick, I normally have got a color checker passport in my jacket pocket. Anything else that we need to kind of address at the moment? Are we okay?
Ones really. I'll just carry on from there, Brian.
All right, okay. So we've talked about using, so far, both of us using single flash, one to balance with the light, and two to work against the light. The next stage is, rather than using a single light, is talking a little bit about adding another light. Here I am back onto my go-to setup with a couple of AD 200s. We've got one here on the right side of your picture, and what that's going to do is provide my key light, and also at the back there, if you go back to one of my first diagrams here. So it's kind of this setup. We've got a key light here in the rice bowl softbox, and directly behind my subject, I have got another AD 200 pointing straight at the camera. And whether this will zoom in or not, I don't know. If you can just make out that there's a kind of orange gel, a CTO gel, in a Magmod gel over the front of that. So CTO, being color temperature orange, is essentially going to just fire an orange colored light from there. And so this is my ambient light shot, how the scene actually looked. Quick test shot, and you can see the effect of this orange light that is starting to illuminate some of the fallen leaves here, some of the leaves to the side. My key light up here has actually gone off, but because Katie, my model here, is not in what I would term as the kill zone, the shoot zone here, she's not really being affected by it. But essentially, that's the ambient light shot, how it would actually look. Using Kev's recipe again of dialing down the ambient light, usually by shutter speed, and probably going into high-speed sync. Now, if you don't understand high-speed sync, I have listened to Mike Weeks doing at least an hour and a half on high-speed sync, right? So that might be another training session. Suffice to say, I'm not going to go into it just now, but with the technology today, it works, and it just works to suit your photography style. There are certain limitations that you have to, but not that many. Okay, so from the ambient light, fire off the light, dial down the ambient light, usually by increasing the shutter speed, get my model to stand in front of our backlight, and there's what we get. Okay, you can see that she's probably in prime position, that the light has illuminated her face and body really quite well. If I can zoom in here, depending on the size of the screen you're looking at, you can see also that there's some raindrops that have been illuminated there. But we've also got this backlight while it's illuminating, or the orange light or the orange gel is illuminating the background behind her, some of the plants and the leaves there. It's also giving me just a hint of an edge light or rim light round her shoulders and a halo round her hair, which is giving me that nice separation. Again, I would stress it's not all about the backlight, okay? The backlight should help what you're doing, but it should not just be what you're doing, unless you really, really want it to. And again, Kev's going to come on to one of his other recipes. So there we go, from there to there, literally within seconds. Okay.
Sorry, Brian, can I just ask something?
Yeah.
When you're saying that the backlight shouldn't overpower it.
Yeah.
And again, I know the answer to this one. How much of a difference would you normally put between your backlight and your key light?
Oh, it really depends. I have been very guilty of overpowering that, and the backlight comes on, and we get this very, very blown out here. So I'm saying stop and a half, maybe thereabouts. A lot of it for me is press a button and see what happens. Okay. The great thing with the Godox system that we're both using is that if you got it wrong, very, very quickly you can go into the control, the trigger on your camera, and dial up or down the power of any light within your system up to usually about five different groups of lights, or 5 different lights. So it depends on the effect that I'm going. If I'm keeping it subtle, stop and a half, thereabouts. But just knowing that you can see it, and without me pointing it out, possibly most folks wouldn't actually see the fact that we've got a rim light around her shoulders and her hair. But take that away and you would notice the difference. Now, going on a little bit from that, as Katie, our model, continued to walk there, she walked out of prime position in the kill zone where the light is. And now, instead of having the light feathered across the front of her, she is now, if we take this diagram, she's now about here. So the light is kind of feathering almost across the back of her. So prime position within the shoot zone. But as she walks past that prime position, we get that. Okay. Now, what you can see from that is, I'll try and put both images up side by side. Got them side by side there, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very nicely illuminated. but because she's slightly ahead of the light, we've now got this shadow or shadow area down this, as you're looking at it, down the left-hand side of her body and her face. Okay, and we're getting a little bit more contrast and a little more 3D shape within the image. As you can see, our backlight is still illuminating her hair a little bit. You can see more of the orange coming through, and it's still illuminating this area. So again, we've got that backlight. This is a screen grab from a BTS video that I did. We've got our key light here at the top of this light stand, and the sun was starting to set. The sun was starting to go down. This GoPro shot has tried to balance out every exposure, so it's made everything far too bright looking. But you can see we've got our key light here, and we've got a backlight here. And my position will be directly opposite. My shooting position will be directly opposite this backlight. Again, I've got an orange gel on there. Now the sun was starting to kind of set down through here, but it wasn't going to hit the model just exactly as I want it. So in order to fake that sunset or complement it, put a backlight behind her, throw on an orange gel, and there we go. We've still got the sun coming down through the trees. I have dropped my ambient exposure to get some nice exposure in the clouds there. We've still got the sun blasting through, flaring through the trees. But the reality is that golden light on the trees and on her hair is not the sun. Okay, call it selling the fake if you want. But again, the shot works, and the shot works for me. Couple more on the multiple light setups. If Colin Leck, I don't know whether he's in the house tonight or not.
He's not. He's had to work late.
All right. Colin lives in a place just south of Glasgow along the coast, a place called Greenock. And Greenock has a lot of industrial sheds there. It was a port. Greenock famous for the fact that the Tate and Lyle sugar factory is there. So these are was there, shall we say. So these are known as the sugar sheds. And Dawn, our model here, who was my test model in the rain shot earlier, what we've got here is we've got actually a 3-light setup. We've got the light that she's looking towards, this key light, and her eyes are pointing almost directly towards it. We've got a speed light directly behind her pointing back towards the camera, position 2 from our initial diagram, which is giving me this edge and halo effect. She's actually standing or crouching just above a reflector, a gold colored reflector, which is on the floor. I think I've got a diagram for this one. Okay, so she's crouching just above this gold reflector here. And I have got another speed light or 200 light at the background, very low power with a blue gel on it, which is just giving me that nice color separation. Everything in the foreground nice and warm, blue gel on the back wall. Give me that. A number of you will know this young lady. She's come on a few workshops with me. This is Deanna. A 3-light setup in Glasgow. Again, do love it when it starts to rain. Most people run for cover. I like to go out and play. And we've got a light, and I'll show you the BTS diagram. Okay, so we've got light in a soft box here, which is giving me the general illumination. And as Kev said before, you always light for the lady, okay? Because she'll tell the guy to put his hand in his pocket and give you the money. We've got another light directly behind them. Now, I have retouched out the light stand that was showing just in here, but that is giving me, let's see if I can go in a little bit. That's giving me the edge light round Deanna's hair, down the back of her leg there, down the front of his trousers there. So it's giving me that separation light. And I'll put the diagram back up. I also have, because this was a dark tunnel there, it wasn't really, I thought we can use something. So literally just grabbed another speed light, an 860, out of my camera bag and laid it on its back in there. You'll see, if this was the color image, you would see it's got a red gel on it, but that was just to to complement the color image. But that was just lighting our archway in the background, just to give me some definition, just to give me some shape and interest in the background. Couple more examples of dropping the ambient light, again, like Kev's recipe. We've got our, this is not a nano stand. This is a very, very nice C stand. Heavy as, but very, very much worth having in your kit. So that's providing my main illumination to the model here. You can see we've got a strip box here with a grid on it, so that light doesn't spread too far and it doesn't overpower what I want to do with the control of the main light. And then you can see in the background here, I've got a speed light on a stand with a gel on, and that very easily becomes that. Okay, I have retouched out the speed light is just in about there, and I've retouched that out. But from there to there, turn the camera around. There's a nice kind of orange neon sign there. So really that's recipe number 3. So we talked about balancing with the flash, underexposing with the flash, using single flashes on both those occasions, and then multiple flashes to give you either side lights, kicker lights, background colors, etc. And Simon is going to highlight Kev or shall we take a break just in case? Mike, any questions?
No, we're fine, think.
Okay, no problem. As in, who promised me subtitles? Okay, I'm going to hand you back over to Kev, who is going to come up with recipe number 4. Still using the same ingredients.
Yep. I'll be honest, this is the section I've been really looking forward to. Because this is something which I love doing, because I love shocking people. I love surprising people. And again, Brian does this kind of stuff as well. I love when someone nearly dislocates their neck as they look at the back of the camera and then they look at the scene and says, that doesn't look, that doesn't. I love that, because they will tell everyone. So just purely from a business point of view, some of these techniques, and again, once you've practiced them, once you've got used to them, they can be just as powerful. But in terms of promoting your business, it's amazing. So here we have typical wedding day. It's a nice enough shot. We've got basically the whole cloud covered, the whole sky was covered with a huge softbox. It's the stuff that everyone wants. It looks amazing. But it's just anybody with a reasonable understanding of how to take a photograph can do it. Now, at this wedding, the bride is actually Norwegian. She had 4 bridesmaids, the groom's sister, 2 twins, and another friend. The 2 twins and the third friend they were across from Norway. And at some point in time, they're going to get married. So I need to wow, because I'm thinking about my future clients. So, rather than a softbox, I used a mag sphere with a full CTO gel. Now, what that CTO gel does, and again, I keep going back to the MagMod stuff, because this stuff, it's a wee bit more expensive than other options that are out there. But I cannot say highly enough how much this transformed what I do, because it's a matter of lifting one on, sticking another one on, and you've changed something dramatically. It's literally that quick. For those who haven't used it, the CTO gel is correct to orange, or colour temperature orange, whatever way you want to say it. It throws an orange light onto your subject to match tungsten light. So it's about 32 or 3300 degrees Kelvin. So what I did then was I dialed into my camera the tungsten setting, or manually 3200 degrees Kelvin. The effect that has is it neutralises that orange light falling onto the subject. Therefore, they're going to look as they did in the first shot. The knock-on effect is that dialing in the Kelvin on your camera changes everything, changes the whole image. So everything you're not hitting with that warm orange light Looks like that. That's in camera. You know, so when the bride's standing there looking, saying, but the sky doesn't look like that. No, well, it kind of does. No, but it doesn't. Yeah, but it kind of does. Again, this is a very, very, very popular Scottish wedding venue. There is a shot there with the, you know, kind of pastel colours and the mist across the lawn.
I was just going to say, I'm so glad you went there in the summer.
That's actually the first image that I showed of the girl in the red dress, where it was showing balanced flashlight and the beautiful, beautiful loch and hills and mountains and trees in the background. It's the same place.
In there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I did exactly the same principle. You know, I could go for a kind of nice pastel type shot, but I wanted to wow them. CTO gel, bring the bride in, and we have that. Bring the groom in, you have that. And literally they're standing snapping their neck, looking left and right, because it looks nothing like what they can see. Now, if I don't have a particularly pleasant area that I can do that with, you know, with the background going blue, I can create it. And the shot I'm going to show is specifically aimed at the equine photographers in here, because at some point there's every possibility that someone asks you to do a portrait shoot for their son, daughter, with their horse or whatever. Now, the shot I'm going to show you, we've done the shoot, we actually got a beautiful sunset shot, really, really nice shot, which Mike shared at one point. Brought them back into the stables, and before the horse was put back in the stable, I said, can I try something? And all I did was I put an AD200 behind, put a blue gel on, underexposed that ambient light. So the only light that was showing is what I hit the girl and her horse with. And gave me that. Just to finish off the shoot. Now, if I have something in the background which has a texture to it, I can sometimes use that as well, in which case I'll turn the flash and point it towards that. Drop the ambient light, point it towards the wall. And this is again, another popular wedding venue. This is 6 feet inside the front door. Photographers walk past this all the time and nobody uses it. Guests are walking past saying, what the hell are you doing? I'm pointing the gel at the back of the room and I'm underexposing them. So again, it's really, really simple. But it gives them something, it gives them a wow. Another wedding venue, they've got big sort of cactus fern type things outside. Purple gel, fire them on there, and you get a nice wee silhouette. It's something different. It's what they can't see with their eyes. And it makes them wonder how you can do it. So once I've got that background, again, same as I did earlier on, once I've got that background looking the way I want it to look, I'll then bring in a key light. And again, depending on how I want it to look, I might feather the light. But sometimes if I'm using the colours really, really strongly or for dramatic effect, I'll point the light straight at them to get a slightly harsher look. Now, this is actually the same building Brian was talking about, the sugar sheds. This is just kind of along for there. Derelict building, prom dress with a sort of teal coloured gel at the background and a key light onto Chloe. And the time it takes her to change out the prom dress into a pair of jeans and a black top, I've nipped round to the other side, I've changed my light position, I'm going to change the angle, I'll bring her in, and I've changed the gel colour on the back, and I get that in a matter of minutes. So it allows you to get so much variety in such a short space of time. It's not even fair. It should be criminal how easy it is. It really should be. Honestly, it's
Shh, don't tell everybody.
Now, this one, if anybody wants to see at the end of this, because I'm aware we're kind of limited with time, this was shot about 2 hours before sunset, so there was plenty of daylight round. What we have here is a fountain. So I've backlit the fountain with an AD200 and a blue gel. I've put an AD200 up here onto the bride with a full CTO. So again, that full CTO is making this go even more blue. And we've put another light at the back with a half CTO just to warm that up a wee bit. And when the bride and groom see that, bear in mind they're standing in daylight and it looks like it's nighttime. and the fountain's not blue. Some of the best Taekwondo fighters in the world, there's a couple of world champions in there. Key light onto the main one, red gel at the back for a wee bit of impact. And sometimes I've had people ask, you know, if you've only got one light on her, how come I can see their faces? That red gel's coming from the back, so it's hitting the white suits, bouncing back, and that's illuminating. So the person in front becomes the reflector for the person behind them. Then we introduce smoke. Now, smoke, powder, anything like that needs to be between your backlight and your subject, because if you hit it with light straight on, it just kills it, just completely ruins the effect. So this is the same principle. Key light onto the model, backlight in blue or red or whatever colour you pick, and drop a smoke pellet in there. Once it builds up, you backlight the smoke and you get that dramatic effect. Smoke grenade at sunset. One light onto the bride. Let the smoke grenade go. And just as it starts to cover her shoulder here, you trip your shutter and you get your shot. This one here, exactly the same setup as this one, except you see this sort of star effect. That's what they call a mag beam, and it's what a thing that Magmod do, where they're cutouts in wee sheets of metal, so it throws shapes onto walls, or in this case, it throws shapes through the smoke. So I'm getting beams of light to give me that kind of star effect. And again, it sounds like I'm making it really simple. Once you've tried it a few times, you've got the formula down, you'll do it with your eyes closed. So I'm going to show you a shot, and this is at Brian's request that I specifically show this shot.
Gee, thanks.
Hey, not this shot in particular, but the one it's leading up to. Now, this was a pre-wedding shoot for a very, very, very nervous bride. Absolutely terrified of having her photograph taken, very self-conscious. Beautiful looking girl. We discussed so much. She was looking at dresses that she wanted to buy for the shoot, so we agreed on this one. She's a police sergeant, he's a police inspector, and God, was he uptight. We'd done some shots, got him into the woods, and he's standing there, hands in the pockets. What are we waiting for? While this guy does, what's he doing? She's saying, just trust him. So we found an epic location. Introduced our gel at the back, just a quarter CTO to lift them up a wee bit. Still not a great shot of the couple. So I built it up. And I got a C stand with an AD200 and that mag beam, but without a cutout in it. It's just a mag beam, so it just throws it really, really wide. And put a full CTO gel onto it, which becomes my setting sun coming down through the woods. I then bring a key light onto them. Now, there's a lot of people would see that and say it's a nice shot, but it's not what was in here. So I popped some smoke. This was actually a behind-the-scenes shot taken on a shoot that I did about a week before the pre-wedding shoot, so that I could dial in where things were going and how I was going to do it in the day. So add all those components into it, get the couple in there, pop some smoke, and we have that. That's how it, admittedly there's a wee bit of kind of toning getting done there to the face and stuff like that, but the smoke is there. That's how it was. And it's amazing the difference it can make when you start adding these things in. Beautiful looking model. This was in a jewellery shoot. Derelict building. It's a nice enough shot. It's okay. What a difference. Quick change of outfit. Quick change of gel. Completely alters the mood of how this is going to go. This one we used powdered chalk. Same principle again, there's a light onto her and I backlit that powder. And that's what makes it stand out. Yeah, and again, you get people, was it photoshopped? No, we just made one hell of a mess. Played about for a while and got it. Now I'm coming up to one of my final shots here. Again, this is, now if you think back to the shot that I finished off the last section with the couple in the dining room at the wedding, this is just outside that room. So they're still inside finishing off their meal. It's pitch dark now. This was 28th of December. This is how it looks to everybody outside. So I brought them out and put a blue gel onto the back. Does that look better?
Yes.
Yes. No, it doesn't. It looks better when I take that shot. I put another speed light in the ground right underneath me. I take some crystals and gels that I've bought off Amazon for £5. Fire a coloured gel into those as I'm dangling in front of my lens. And I get that.
All done on camera.
All done on camera. That bride walks back inside and everybody with one functioning eyeball is grabbed in. Here, have a look at this. You need to see what this guy's done. And Brian, you'll vouch for this. How many times do we get asked, did you Photoshop that?
Oh, I've never been asked that. They just assume. I actually have taken a shot and taken the shot and instantly showed it to a bridesmaid. And she said, did you Photoshop that? Yeah, in the camera. Yeah, of course it did.
Because it looks so far away from what they can see with their eyes. Mixing smoke and two types of gel. Derelict building. So there's a flash up here with a full CTO. There's one in here with a blue. Pop some smoke. And we get that. Once you start adding gels and smoke and powder and crystals and stuff into it, I'm not saying it works for every single shot. It doesn't. But if you throw it in at the end, give them something that looks so far away from what they could possibly imagine it looks like. The bride that you saw in the wood, the final shot I'm going to show you, that gave her so much confidence. By the way, she's now booking a boudoir shoot once we can actually get out of lockdown. But she trusted me enough to stand in the wood shed of the venue and let me set fire to a brick that was just in front of them and let me get that in camera.
No, that's not setting fire to his kilt, was it? Huh?
No, just exploring. No, that is literally the shot that I showed earlier on at the inside of the venue. Same principle. It's exactly the same idea. It's just that we're in a woodshed. I get some, what did I have? I had barbecue, the wee barbecue lighters, wee kind of pouch things, the wee sachets.
Yeah.
We got a breeze block, sat the breeze block on a table, covered that with these barbecue lighters and set fire to the things. That's how it turned out.
Amazing.
And that's pretty much it, guys. That's, if you seems everybody's still here, that's the behind sheet and shots for the
blue fountain. The blue fountain, yeah.
Blue gel fired through this CTO gel onto the bride and groom, backlight onto the back of their heads. That was, and you can see how much light there is about there. And how it turned out. Guys and girls, that's it.
Yeah. So we've if you do a stop share screen at the moment, Kev.
No, it's mine.
It's all yours, in control. Yeah. So we've kind of showed you what's in the kit bag. We've given you four recipes. There's the balancing flash with the available light. There's underexposing the available light. There's adding recipe 3 is adding a second light or a second or a third light, and recipe 4 is starting to play with colors, whether that's gels or white balance control within the camera. The one thing is, I would say, get out there and do it. Get out there and practice. Particularly just now, where the business opportunities are minimalist, to say the least. Where perhaps when we start releasing lockdown, go out with children, partners, your own children, by the way, partners, pets, etc. Practice some of these techniques, because it's, each one of these has really only a few ingredients, but it's how they're mixed and how they're experimented. Get out there and practice. Make your mistakes. Sometimes you'll make happy mistakes, and we'll talk about that just in a second as a closer. But one of the things that Kev and I, we both use this same line, particularly on weddings, is you go out and you're maybe out with a bride and groom, and you're one of the phrases we both use it to almost exactly the same is you'll say to the bride, right, finish now with what I'm doing, but I've just had an idea. I've just had an idea. And Kev could probably say the phrase that I'm about to say is, what is it, Kev? I'm not sure.
It might not work.
I'm not sure if this is going to work.
But if it does, it's going to be nice.
It's going to be nice.
It might not.
And you know fine, because you have gone out there and practiced it and made your mistakes till you've got it right, where you can literally just turn up and in one shot get that wow shot. And sometimes by going out there and practicing and making mistakes, you get what could be considered as a better shot than you were originally planning. Kev, do you want to show your happy mistake shot?
Happy mistake shot. Yeah, I'll share that.
Simon, you might need to spotlight Kev for this. I'm not sure.
Now, before I share it, this shot was at a wedding. The venue had actually, they had arranged for an ice machine, one of these kind of smoke things on the ground to come along. And on the day, the venue decided they couldn't use it. So the bride was devastated because she'd spent all this money on it. I asked the guy, is it portable? He said, yeah, we can take it outside. So we found a wee kind of enclosed area. And the initial idea I had was put one light at the back to backlight it with a colour and put another light onto the couple. And then,
but
and then the flash didn't fire. And that to me was 1,000 times better than the shot I had in my head. It was a complete accident. It was nowhere near where I had planned. But that then showed me, okay, why did it go wrong? What went wrong? Right, now I can replicate that, as you saw in some of the shots earlier on. I took the inspiration from that failure, if you like, that mistake, and made it another thing which KSG photography does.
Nice one. And it was the DJ or the event supplier who had a massive. It
was like a kettle. He called it a kettle. He said once it's boiled up, you can take it anywhere. You unplug it and move it outside.
Yeah, dry ice, wasn't it?
What?
Aye, dry ice, amazing. Right. In similar vein is going out there and practicing and finding a happy mistake. Is there was a shot that I showed you, or there was a shoot that was on where it was my friend Deanna. It started to rain, but once it had calmed down a little bit, I decided, right, okay, we'll try a slightly different location. And what I was doing, I was getting her boyfriend Michael to be my Val, my voice activated light stand. Essentially, voice activated light stand is just having a stand that you can say, go there, turn it this way, turn it that way. And there was the shot that we were setting up. Okay. But what I noticed was that Michael either wasn't paying attention or wasn't listening or whatever. He'd actually turned the flash, the softbox, far too much towards the camera for my liking. Okay, it was giving me a nice kind of contrasty short lighting effect on Deanna there. But what I did notice is that if I changed my crop in camera to try and catch the edge of that light flare, it made it look like a foggy night. And yeah, happy accident, complete mistake, but something that if you're out there and you're doing your practicing, I mean, that's an in-camera shot. There's the only thing done to that was obviously a mono conversion on it, but this up in the top right hand corner is the edge of the flash flare coming into the camera, but giving me the effect. I did consider putting the silhouette of an axe murderer up the top of the stairs, but decided against it. A happy accident, a bit like Kev's.
Kev was a happy accident. That's harsh, man.
Kev is, well, not doing that. Kev's an accident.
To the heart.
Yep. So yeah, get out there, practice, have fun with it. It's very rare that you'll make an irrecoverable mistake, but if you do, learn from your mistake, know how to fix it, and then do it again, guys. That while we could probably show you hundreds, if not thousands, of more examples of what we've done, we've kind of covered four of the basic areas that we wanted to just share with you. Stuff that we use, stuff on proms, events, weddings, portrait shoots, that type of thing. But stuff that we use all the time, and same ingredients, and just how we mix it. Mike, before we kind of hand back to an open forum, is there any other questions that we need to?
Kev's just answered one. Tony Longmore asked, I know she changed the white balance and camera for a blue light effect. Could you get the same by changing the color balance in post using RAW? And Kev's put the answer, yes, you can, as long as you have the gel on the key light in the first place. By doing it in camera, I can show them the well shot immediately. Yeah.
There's that. While we also, you can do the opposite effect. While we were talking about using tungsten color balance within the camera to make any white light turn blue, if you're looking to really make a sunset exceptionally fiery, change your camera white balance to something like shade or cloudy or something like that, and use an orange gel. A blue gel, which will neutralize the subject's skin tones, and you will get that fiery orange sunset and neutralize the skin tones of the model. It's color theory stuff that I thought that I learned in an art class one time. I thought I'd never ever use things like the color wheel and all the rest of it. It's just understanding a little bit of that. To, shall we call it, seasoning ingredients with a recipe. So guys, I know Kev's still there in the background, but on behalf of us both, thank you so much for all those who attended tonight and who were willing to listen to our meanderings. I hope that there was at least one useful thing. If you've learned one thing or seen an example of one thing tonight that you could perhaps go away and try, then we'll be quite happy. So thanks again, guys.
Well, thank you. Any questions, guys, fire away and we'll do it.
I'm just going to make the point there you say about the mag mod. I've got the Godox, the AKR1, so it's accessory kit R1. Brian's seen it, and it isn't the quality of the mag mod. It hasn't got the flexibility of the mag mod, but you're paying a lot less for it, so it's a balance.
Yeah,
I've seen Brian with his mag mod in use. I did notice on yours though, Kev, when you showed the picture where he was holding up that black thing. Are you sure that was mag mod, not something from Love Honey?
The snoot.
Folded snoot. It just looks a bit weird.
I don't know what it is. Brian said, he loaned me it one day. He says, try that, see what you think. I said,
try that, see what you think. I said, but you don't put it in there.
I assumed it was a light modifier.
Yeah.
Your Honour.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But as I say, we Brian and I have done exactly the same thing down there, and it is when you put it in somebody's hands and you say, step one, correct your ambient. So set your ambient how you want it. Do you want it as it is? Do you want it underexposed? That's basically your two options. Step two, add your light in to add taste. Step three, add any effects you want. And we literally got them going step one, step two, step three. And I've never seen as many delighted people all wandering around showing you the backs of their cameras, the thing that you've told them how to do, and they are amazed that they actually did it. And I think it was the first time when Brian and I did this, we went back to the stand, we had people walking back from the masterclass who came and saw us out on the sand just to say thanks because it had really sunk in. It was the first time I'd seen it. And it is exactly what you say. It is not difficult, but it's just a matter of Brian and I had sat there and talked through exactly how we were going to demonstrate it, chalked them off, and it's the same as practicing. Bang, 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 done. So,
yeah, I'll let you into a secret. Kev and I are not as clever as we look.
We are doing it.
It's true. Purely from a business point of view as well, irrespective of what genre of photography you're in, you know, it's tough out there. We're coming out of lockdown, and certainly what Brian and I have seen local to us, the divide has got even greater because there are so many people who've been in furloughed or they've lost jobs, so they've got a good camera, they're coming out and doing jobs for pennies. So how can we justify charging the sort of money that we charge? So we need to be different. So there are so many natural light photographers out there. You know, and I'm not the crack. You know, that's great if you know how to use light rather than taking a crap photograph and skilting a filter onto it. But being able to do this, and getting back to Tony's question, yes, I can do these things in Camera Raw or Lightroom or whatever, but when I can show someone the back of the camera there and then, the effect it has for your business is tremendous. But as Brian says, go out and practice now. Once we're starting to come out of lockdown, and I think Charlotte mentioned that our cockapoo is going to be bored senseless in a couple of days. Once you've got the basics, there's nothing to stop someone putting a post up saying, look, I've got some new equipment, I've got some new kit, I'm trying some new techniques, therefore I'm doing a special offer for 3 photo shoots next Saturday at half price, purely for experimental shoots, to let you try it, to let you make mistakes, let you get the happy accidents, you know, and start building that up there, guys.
There's also the fact if you can actually do it in camera, like Kev said, that one where he used the crystals and the gels and the backlight, the shot, you know, you'll get the bride and groom saying, go and show that to such and such, go and show that. There's the potential for earning further business there and then. The number of times I've actually had couples come and say, you know, we really like what you showed us. I mean, it might be only 1 or 2 shots. It might be that wow shot. Simon, I did actually shoot a wedding down in Coventry, and there's like you too, and there's a shot that I got there, and to be honest, I think that was 4 years ago. I think it was 2016. There was a shot that I got. I did have the best Val in the second best Val in the UK with me. That day. It was almost another one of my happy accidents, but it's probably to this day still one of my favorite wedding shots. And if you can show that to the bride and groom on the spot, who can then show that to friends, family, there and then, look at this. There's an expectation of not only the bride and groom, but their family and their friends cannot wait to see the rest of the pictures. Yeah. So it's going to drive traffic towards your website. It's going to drive traffic towards your social media, etc. Call it opportunism if you want, but if you can do it there and then in camera and have an impressive thing where they look at the back of the camera and say, "Did you Photoshop it?"
Make sure you have plenty of business cards on hand because they'll go. Anything else?
Pellets that you're using, guys, are those the kind of things that you use for checking out a chimney and a flue? Are they the same sort of thing?
Yeah,
small ones.
Yeah. It depends. I actually started playing with smoke because I was shooting a wedding. And I was shooting the bride at sunset, and there were like 4 guys standing off to the side vaping, and the vape kept drifting across, and they kept apologising. I thought, no, don't apologise, come here. So I've got a behind-the-scenes shot somewhere of one guy behind the bride's dress and hiding behind a tree, and 3 guys lying in the grass, and I'm screaming like a man, more smoke, I need more smoke. One guy was sick because he was... But I thought there must be an easier way of getting this done, so I started playing around with things that would create smoke. And what I found is, if it's still enough and it's a kind of enclosed-ish area, the wee smoke pellets work really, really well. If it's an open area, somebody mentioned the Enola Gay smoke grenades work really, really well. They tend to... The one thing I don't get, I see a lot of people using smoke in portraits and fashion shoots and weddings, and they'll hand someone a smoke grenade and they stand like that. For me personally, I don't get that. It's just the smoke needs to add something to it rather than there's a smoke grenade. So that again, that was planning, playing about, seeing what worked, spending money on stuff that didn't work. The Enola Gay ones work really well. You've usually got quite a good burn time on them. Just make sure there's a pair of sturdy gloves. Always carry a first aid kit with me and a fire extinguisher just in case. And at venues, 99 times out of 100, I'll ask permission before I use it. Make sure they're happy with it.
And be prepared. The Enola Gays kick out a huge amount of smoke.
Yeah.
They do. And your clothing will smell.
Yep. And it's quite possible to stain the bride's gown with it.
Yeah. That's why the vast majority of the ones I use the white ones. If I'm going to use them, I use white, and I'll add colour using a gel.